Hi, everyone. I'm Maya. I'm starting this new series called Building Now, where I get to interview awesome people like KP, who's like one of the top voices in Build in Public, and also he's the head of community at Netlify, where I really would like people like him to give us like bite-sized advice for new builders and founders like me and everyone else watching, to help us grow in our journey and kind of get to where he is faster. So thank you, KP, for coming on. And yeah, I'm really excited to do this.
Thank you, Maya. I'm always excited to do anything with you. You've been a prolific builder in public,
Thank you.
and happy to see you try this new experiment.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and I think you're like one of the like first people or the only person who introduced me to Build in Public in the first place, which got me started on this whole journey. So it's really good to have you as the first guest for this. So yeah,
I'm
thank you.
honored. It's special for both of us. Then I'm
Yeah.
honored.
Yeah. So I think so for this, I wanted to make this like kind of like 15 minutes, kind of like rapid fire, kind of like asking you like, you know, the first thing I want to ask you is like, you have like a very strong personal brand. And I wanted to know, like, can you tell us a little bit about your journey on how you built your personal brand where everyone knows you as like the Build in Public guy?
I think the a lot of that came from just sticking with one thing for a very long time, right?
Hmm.
So if you recall, we both first connected maybe in 2023, is it?
Yeah,
4? 3? Yeah.
2023. Yeah.
Which is 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And even then I was like prolific and talking about building in public, like left,
Hmm.
right, center, as if I just discovered,
Yeah.
gold. But the funny thing is, even like in 2020, I did the same thing and I was at On Deck.
Really?
Everybody at On Deck knew me as the building public guy. Same thing that I'm feeling right now in Netlify. A lot of my colleagues, including our CTO this morning, she was like, KP, building public guy, right? So there's a sense of like people associate me with that phrase because I have been consistent with that phrase since technically 2018, because that's when I discovered building in public, right? Early days, I saw Peter Levels, shout out, and a few others doing it, but it was one of those many, many phrases. But the reason why I think I was able to really build something out of it was for two reasons. One is that I have been almost for 8 years consistent with something. So if you're doing
Right.
something for 8 years in public, there's no way, you're going to suck at it. There's
Yeah.
no way you're going to be not known for it. But the reason why I was able to survive 8 years, and I think I'll go another 10 years easy or more, is because I actually truly believe in it.
Hmm.
The magic is not in the phrase. The magic is in choosing what you actually believe in and taking a simple idea very, very seriously, right? A lot of people, like, there's so many ideas that we all have, right? Whether it's like AI vibe coding, or whether it's whatever, AI filmmaking, or you take any phrase like, more people should be doing XYZ, more people should be doing whatever. If you believe in it for some reason, um, it's usually there's no logic. It's emotional reasons. It's not like a rational decision. Like I thought, oh, there's the ROI for this phrase. No, I just had a good gut feeling about it, and I believe that that's the right philosophy to operate on, especially as a founder. And I thought, let me just see how far I can take it. And once I got going, um, by the way, I was doing 4 or 5 such things. I was doing no code as a phrase. I was doing a philosophy is another phrase. There's a few things, a few niches that I was active on, which is all like
Yeah.
fitness was
I
one of
remember
them.
I thought I saw no code back
Yeah,
in
there was
in
many
your bio back then.
bio,
So
yeah.
yeah.
But the thing that I think consistently stuck with, and people also resonated from me, has been building in public, and so it's been
Hmm.
easy to build a personal brand around that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think it's really inspirational because like I think especially when you're starting out and you don't see any results for a long time, you don't like feel like moving forward with it, but then the result usually like just like compounds suddenly. So I feel like you just have to kind of like keep going at it
Yeah,
until you accomplish something. So that's really
100%. I
insightful.
think all of
Yeah.
all the great returns and rewards come in at the second half, or almost at the
Hmm.
last 10% of the journey. The first 90% of the journey is almost like you're barely getting any ROI. I remember when I started my podcast, I did 96 episodes, but um, there was a joke about how the first 18 episodes were like literally chewing glass because there was no ROI. There was like 11 listeners or like 20 listeners. Are you kidding me? Right? Like I could real life go to more doors and knock
Yeah.
on doors and make people listen to something than 11 listeners online, right? But I did it because I actually obsessed on joy than
Hmm.
ROI. because I knew
That's a good
fundamentally
saying.
from all the others that who were ahead of me that they were telling me the same thing, that you gotta be obsessed about the process and putting the reps out there and just do it and be less obsessed about the results. And I
Yeah.
think that is also part of growing up. Like once you kind of become mature, you really like focus more on the process, less about the results. And so it comes easy. I think after I got into 30s, I got more patient, but before
Nice.
that I was very impatient. So
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I'm in the impatient stage right now, so
So don't blame yourself.
yeah.
There's many of you like that, and including me, I was like that too. So it's
Yeah.
you have to really exhaust the impatient muscle and realize it's getting
Mhm.
you nowhere except rock bottom, and you're trying to like
Yep,
you're tired of the feeling like shit, and you're like, okay, now I'm gonna be patient. So
yep. No, that's awesome, and that's, like, the JOY, like,
yeah,
instead of ROI, that's, like,
yeah,
gold. So, the other question I wanted to ask you actually is, like, something you had said to me a long time ago that I think I would love for you to share with everyone else is, like, I think back then when it was called Twitter, it was, like, Twitter serendipity. I guess now it's, like, X serendipity, I guess,
yes,
but if you could talk a little bit about that, because I think that's something that stuck with me, and I think opportunities just like happen. So I wanted to
yes.
hear from you again. Like,
100%. My whole career has been a string of random lucky accidents and serendipitous opportunities, right? Including my current job in Netlify, where I was not an SF. I live in Atlanta with you. I mean, you
mhm,
live in Atlanta
yeah,
too. And I'm working at a company that's headquartered in San Francisco.
yeah,
And technically, they could hire anybody in the world, has had a community. And my meeting with Matt Billman, our CEO, was a chance encounter that happened on Twitter first, similar to many things that happened on Twitter for me first. Like my
crazy.
the job before Netlify
Mhm,
was Paddle, where the CMO of Paddle found out about me on Twitter first, and on and on and on. And I think what's interesting with Twitter is compared to LinkedIn, Twitter allows for more authentic, raw takes and raw opinions and ideas. With LinkedIn, you're trying to kind of guard your reputation a little bit because
yeah,
your coworkers are on active, right? Everyone's like, "Oh my god, what if it like an HR of a future company that I might be hired looks at my posts and like it looks weird." It's also LinkedIn's got your entire resume attached to your home profile page, so you have to play the part, right? Like Vanderbilt graduate,
yeah,
masters in electronics. You have to kind of play the part.
yeah, that's
With
true.
Twitter, I feel like it's much more chill, and I always joked even back when we first met. I was used to say Twitter is both things at the same time. It could either be a cesspool, um, of like memes and just dark humor and just negativity and toxicity, or also it could be a campfire around friends with friends. And I view it the latter way.
Mhm,
I intentionally
yeah,
wake up and think of Twitter as just like a Slack channel with my friends or future friends, right?
true,
And so when I
true.
post something, I'm sharing like I would talk to a friend. And so my writing style, if you notice as well over years, like it used to be a little bit more stiff and like LinkedIn, like thought leader. And then over time I relaxed. My ultimate goal is to be like Sam Altman, which is full lowercase letters, and it's just fun, right? Like just
Yeah,
be
it is fun.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
especially with the algo change. I think now it's starting to feel a little bit more like what it used to back in like
Yeah. So
2023,
your
which is
your
good.
wish has come true. You've
Yes,
been
my
wanting.
wish. Yeah,
I remember when since you got back, you've been like saying,
yeah,
"Sure, it doesn't feel like it was back in the day,"
yeah.
and I was like,
No, I feel like, yeah, that's so true because, like, I think when I got back this time, it wasn't like this last year, like, when
"Yeah,
I had my
yeah,
brief comeback, but
yeah,
it was just, like, filled with, like, the same questions
yeah,
over and over again, and I
yeah."
feel like at least now I'm able to see some
Some
content that's
friends and some
valuable and
followers.
friends,
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
like, Edgar reached out, like, I think,
yeah.
like, he was like, "Hey, long time," so it was
Yeah,
pretty
long
cool.
time,
Yeah.
so many, like Wela reached out, right? So I think so back to serendipity, just to close the loop on that, is when you put yourself out there, put your work out there, and when you share what you really are passionate about, other people come around, and they sort of, your ideas are magnets, in my view, um, for the people that who also believe in something similar, right? So early days of 2019, 20, I was getting into no code. I was like learning about no code, like tools like Bubble and Airtable and Webflow, and I was sharing about them. And I was not the smartest no code player, but I was sharing what I learned along the way.
Mhm.
Similar to what
Yeah.
you're doing right now. Like you're
Yeah.
learning about
Sort of,
distribution,
yeah.
sharing your lessons, and you're not claiming you're the best or the brightest. You're just saying this
Yeah.
is what I
It's
learned
just,
as of
like,
today.
learning along the way and
Yeah.
sharing right after I learn it. So,
Exactly. And I think a
yeah.
lot of people, we forget the power of the internet because there's a lot of people who are lurkers or watchers or people who are like trying to have answered the same question, they accidentally run into that particular, post you may have made, and they think, oh, this person is a good teacher, or this person is a good sharer, right? And this happened to me during 2020 when I was doing this. I think I did 15 no code projects all in public one by one. And Eric Turnberg, who's who founded On Deck and a few others at the company, they saw me and they tracked me. That wow, this guy, like he's putting out good content on no code, and he's a true practitioner. And when the right opportunity came for their company to hire a program director, they thought of me as the one and only. The job request directly came to me as like you are the, and they wrote me. I
Mhm.
remember a Google Doc why we believe you're the right fit for this job. So the
That's pretty
reverse pitch
cool.
to me, isn't that crazy, right?
Yeah, that's
And and
awesome.
and I was like, wow, I was surprised. I still have the Google Doc, and I was like, what? Like someone really did the research on me, right? And that's
Yeah,
because I've made, I don't know, 300, 400 tweets on it, right? The other thing I think a lot of people, so for serendipity to work in your favor, you have to really do a lot of it. I think a lot of people underestimate, like, unlike in school, the difference with school and real life is, in school, you do one assignment and you're supposed to do one with the rest of your classmates, and you're graded on the assignment and you get a certain score and you're like good or bad, right? In real life, one assignment or one, post of something or one episode or anything is nothing. The
yeah,
price, the
it's
price of greatness is 100 reps, right?
yep,
So you better really exercise the muscle of repetition, and then you're relevant. And from there, you don't have to look back. So I feel like I started becoming relevant since 2020, and I never had to look back. There's no like,
yeah,
falling off the
that's true.
cliff, right?
Yep,
Until you go into controversy.
yep,
So this is the message I wish I knew when I was starting out, is that, oh, it takes more reps.
yep.
So be more prolific.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's awesome. That's why, like, the 10,000 hour thing, even though it's like from a book, and I don't know how realistic it is to put in, like, I mean, it's if you work 8 hours a day, it's probably around 4 years of work, so it's not that long in the
Yeah.
grand scheme of things. But
Right.
I think that's something that, like, I publicly committed to in my video, and I also
Nice.
think that's the reps that I think everyone should be taking and not
Yes.
like expect immediate results.
Yes.
But yeah, that's really insightful. So
I feel like I think a lot of a lot of the average people, or a lot of people who are beginning to start something, or like in any field, just underestimate how many reps the people who are like, ahead of the
yeah,
curve have taken. Right. I think
yeah,
it's just the biggest confusion like I had when I thought, oh, why is this so hard for me? Like, no, everyone had to go through the hard phase. It's like the workouts in the gym, right? Everyone has to go through the very hard first year, second year, and then you get the six pack. You don't start with the six pack, right?
yeah.
So
Yep, that's true. Yeah, and like kind of the final question and kind of like just the discussion I wanted to kind of talk about is like a couple things. So like one is like community, because you are the head of community, and like kind of how to kind of start building a kind of network for yourself. And then the second thing, it's kind of tied to this, but building in public, right? So right now, I think there's a stigma about your product getting cloned, and you want to kind of keep it to yourself. So I think you had mentioned something very insightful to me before, and I think everyone needs to hear that. So like kind of how to kind of
I think in
build in
this,
public now, kind
yeah,
of.
I mean, in
Yeah,
the building public now is the same it's been maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, except the rate at which someone can clone you has gotten, much,
yeah,
much faster, right?
yep,
It would probably take, back in the day, it'd probably take someone like a week of dedicated time to clone your successful app, but now it takes like an hour, right? But the fundamental philosophy, I think, doesn't change, right? When Buffer.com came out, which is a social media scheduling tool, when it became successful, when they had product market fit, which is like, let's say, $10,000 dollars MRR, there was 20 buffers that came out of the woodworks. It was everywhere. It was on Hacker News. Some guy, with something called Guffer or whatever. Like it was a bootleg version of Buffer. And there's 20 different
yeah,
versions of social media scheduling tools like Hootsuite and this and that. Um, that's also the price of success, right? Think of how many competitors we have in Netlify,
true.
right? Like there's so many.
Yeah,
And I think that is, again, this is again one of the confusing points people have when you think about, like, I guess, when you come from non-traditional or non-business backgrounds. I think competition is what makes a business really thrive, in my view. So I actually welcome the competition, number one, because otherwise, how will you wake up and think to do a little bit better? right? Because someone out there who's like competing will make you feel a little bit more inspired. It's kind of like a running race. Like you want, like the NBA, you want the teams. You don't want all 30
Yeah.
teams when they disappear and you're the only team playing by yourself. That's
True.
meaningless, right?
Yep.
Then that's the whole like meta point about competition is good. Whether it's cloning or whether they're cloning you or not cloning you, competition is good. And number two is if they're cloning you, that by default is an inferior team, right? If you and I start an NBA team and like we're always copying LA Lakers is the
Yeah.
greater team, obviously,
Yep.
right? So the main thing though is with the products, especially the 0 to 10K MRR, a lot of founders are more worried about someone's cloning my idea and then like I'm not gonna get reach my goal. I think that's because they are not focused or investing on community and friendships. Every company has friends, right? You need to invest the early believers of your product, what you built. These are your friends. You have to make them friendly, right? And you have to be there for them. You have to answer support tickets. You have to jump on Zoom calls and make sure their setup is correct. Make sure they're finding success with your tool. All of these things they cannot copy. They can
True.
probably at max
Yep.
copy your landing page and copywriting,
Yeah.
but they cannot copy the hustle. They cannot copy the DMs. They cannot copy Zoom calls. They cannot copy if you have like let's say 10 paying customers, you know, every single day, if you take one of the customers and give them a shout out on Twitter and try to get them some business, try to get them some customers. That is they'll be so grateful. Think about how many times you woke up and
True.
somebody gave you an authentic shout out. Like
Yeah,
very
that's
rare,
true.
right?
Yeah,
But
it's
if you do
yeah.
that for your first 10 paid customers, why will they leave you to go to your competitor? Especially the
True.
clone.
Yeah.
They would never do. So the clones don't copy the great moves. They always copy the lazy moves, right? So to me, I'm like, I'm never worried about clones. I used to initially when I first started out, I remember I built Kappa and I had a heartbreaking moment when I discovered somebody built exact clone like by like in India. And for like I think I remember for a weekend, I was like so, you know, yeah, hapless and so
Yeah.
like in anger and all of that. Again, you know, 15 products later, I'm like, I welcome competition. I don't care. I don't think about them. So I want all the founders who start their companies or start their products to act like winners already, right? And then think about how best can I, if you have 20 hours of time in a week, every single minute of that should be thinking of excellence in delivering something valuable to your customers, not about, how many people are copying my notes and all that. It's just because
Yeah,
they can be doing that forever too. They get tired after like
that's
2 months
true.
and they move
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, that's so true, and I think you had mentioned something where it was like, like the best products have gone through like 1,000 iterations,
Yeah.
of the thing. So it's really hard to like copy all the
All
learnings
the
and
stuff.
lessons
Yeah.
you've learned throughout like building that product. So and that's what it stuck with me. Like, and I think it's important
You
for
you
everyone watching to
yourself
know.
right, you yourself know from one of your I mean, your first product that you built, right? Think about it, like,
Yeah,
how many iterations have you gone through for that
yeah,
product? Many, so many.
many,
So
yeah,
if I had to copy, which one should I copy? The first one or the second or the 98th like,
exactly.
So I think, but it does sting if someone is, like, plainly copying. It's almost like
Yeah,
a creeper, like
like entire landing page is like,
Yeah. The it's just yeah, it feels like lame, and I think the humorous way to address that is two ways. One is just like move on, not think about them. But the humorous way is to like give a clap back. I think some of our friends, some of our mutuals on Twitter do that in a funny way.
yeah,
Like take a screenshot of them and this and like point the, Spider-Man, pointing finger. Like, you can have fun with it. But
yeah,
it does sting, but over time you don't think about it. So,
true, true.
so yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for hopping on. And these are all like really, really amazing like lessons for everyone. And I'm really hoping this series will help a lot of people like me starting out on their journey and learning from people who have been doing this for years or even like months but have done something right so we can kind of learn from them. So thank
Yes.
you so much.
Awesome. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. All